Hello indie game fans, just managed to squeak this in before the end of the month, but August was another great month for indies, with special mention going to the pixel art puzzle platformer Inmost. This beautiful game technically released in 2019 on Apple Arcade, but Steam is where I played it, with the combination of clever mechanics, emotional story and gorgeous art. Now I'm in a dilemma on whether or not to consider it for the best of the year list, but while I think over that, the top 15 hidden gems of the month begins with Spirit's Abyss. Missed the 1.0 launch of this and went back to dabble, and it remains just as good. A roguelike platformer with a nice variety of playable classes, this is light on story but makes up for it in gameplay, giving me some serious Spelunky vibes, especially in terms of the action. A lot less punishing, but still a challenge, this has plenty of secrets to hide as well, and recommended if you love the genre.
Enough introduction, let's do this.
An impressive homage to classic Doom, Hellbound does live up to its tagline, a 90s FPS 30 years later. The story is basically go kill demons, but that's plenty of reasons to pick up a gun and start blasting away. It's visceral, bloody, and relatively fast for a first-person shooter, but perhaps falls a little bit short in terms of the amount of content. Still, a solid showing, and I'm waiting to see more from this developer.
I belong in Helheim. No stupid battles, no stupid games, just peace and quiet for all eternity.
Norse mythology often tells of tales of mighty warriors going all out in the blaze of glory on the battlefield, but what if you were a pacifist Viking? That is the story of Helheim Hassle, where our protagonist dies in an accident but is resurrected, hoping to find a way into Hell rather than Valhalla. Due to the accident, he can detach his limbs at will, which, similar to The Missing, allows for some tricky puzzle platforming sections. The writing in this is pretty good, and one for narrative game fans. If you're interested in medieval combat, whether it be from exposures to movies and TV, or from games like Mordhau, Griefhelm may be of interest since this is a side-on take with some brutal feeling action. Strangely enough, it touts itself as an award-winning local multiplayer game, which is not what I expected, but it does have a story campaign which is designed to be repeated with new challenges each time. Love the art and animation in this, and there are even plans for post-launch content. I'm not too into colony sims, but a title which looks promising is Ruinarch, where you play as an evil overlord and have to sow chaos and destruction in the world. As with many of these in the genre, it is about the emergent stories that come out of this, where you can, for example, turn a villager into a werewolf and watch the village turn on him. Start a cult, cause the zombie apocalypse, or directly capture and torture villagers, so fulfill your inner Sauron fantasy with this.
The age of rock is over.
That's where you're wrong. The power of rock is stronger than ever. Yes!
A band called Bunkbed Junction has been slowly claiming our districts.
We need to take action.
But there's nothing we can do about it.
There's always something we can do, Zook.
Malaysia made No Straight Roads gets a spot, because of course, Asia represent. This is a musically themed action-adventure game which looks gorgeous and incorporates musical and rhythm elements into the game quite nicely. There are fun characters and even better bosses, but the theme of using the power of rock to take out corporate EDM may be a little odd considering how corporate the entire music industry is.
First, they rejected us. Then, they denied our right to rock out. This is wrong.
I hate to say this, but I think you might be onto something.
We're gonna rock onwards with all that we've got. Are you with me?
To the very end, May.
We fight for the little guys!
A struggle as old as humanity itself. An endless battle of minds and bodies, raging inside every one of us. The mightiest fall, betrayed by the base needs of their fragile vessels. But not me. My mind is a weapon. My body, an instrument honed to perfection. I will prevail.
Man, you are such a drama queen.
I like beat 'em ups since they provide a nice, easy outlet for some straightforward fun, especially when you don't think too much about it, with Shing being an excellent example. Play as ninjas and beat up demons, so what's there not to love? It has an interesting freestyle combo system which is worth a try, and has additional elements like puzzles for pacing, which works for this. Phoenotopia Awakening is an adventure platformer that seems to have some inspiration from side-scrollers like Zelda 2, and has you heeding the call of adventure as a great starship in the sky abducts all the adults from the village. Of course, the most striking thing about this game is the pixel art, which I absolutely adore, and on top of the side-scrolling action, there's cooking, fishing, overworld exploration, an inventory system, and so much more. It's wonderful, light-hearted, and reviewed well, though I personally am waiting for the PC version. If you like absurd physics-based silliness, Radical Relocation will be of interest, since this has you piloting a variety of vehicles, from cars and boats, stacking everyday items and furniture on them, and attempting to get from point A to B safely. This did remind me of Tricky Towers, where you had to stack Tetris pieces with physics, and in a similar way had you precariously putting things on top of each other, which naturally leads to chaos, and despite it not being in early access, this does have more content planned for it. The insane first-person shooter Post-Void did drop out of nowhere and wowed with its surreal visuals and extremely fast action. There's an arcade high-score chase more than anything, where killing enemies looks like it refills your HP, and as a result, you just move from one scene to the next. There are randomized upgrades in between the levels, and procedurally generated layouts and enemies, so a wonderful little game that has some of the same spirit as Devil Daggers. I might be hanging out in the wrong corners of the internet, or perhaps the right parts depending on how you see it, but I have not seen much coverage of Surgeon Simulator 2, the follow-up to the insane physics-based operation game with intentionally difficult controls. The sequel expands and adds so much more, such as the ability to move, jump, and explore, rather than solely being locked in at the operation table. This is then used with honest-to-goodness level design as you explore the hospital looking for the body parts needed for surgery. While you can play solo, multiplayer seems to be encouraged, and it even comes with a level builder that should have some clever user creations. Dinosaur Tycoon game pretty much describes Parkasaurus, and hey, I love those two things, so putting them together is a dream. I do like the cartoony visuals and outlandish colours, showing the whimsy of the title, but there are some deep and interesting tycoon mechanics. For example, your dinos need their privacy, which is affected by fencing, terrain, and foliage. There's a research tree to unlock different breeds of dinosaurs, and of course, the occasional dino on the loose. But this is an awesome tycoon game that is not to be missed, especially for fans of the genre. I love the description of Assembly Planter, which states, "This is a farming automation game that allows you to progress from poor, hardworking farmer with just a few tools to a lazy rich guy that watches his machines do the work for him while he tries to optimize production." In the same month that Factorial was released, this perhaps got a little bit of the short end of the stick and is certainly smaller in scale, although you are given the ability to shrink factories into a single space, allowing you to build factories within factories, nesting one within the other, which results in some insane levels of production. Awesome smaller game that is made for a certain type of person like me. I love the art style of this developer, who is also currently developing Space Gladiators Escape Tartarus in early access, but Lost Potato is a smaller action roguelite where you are unable to directly attack enemies and instead have to push them into traps and hazards. There are roguelike items and upgrades per run, and even cosmetic hats to unlock, but with each run lasting 3 to 5 minutes, it's a pick up and play type of game that's worth your time. Finally, Shippo gets top billing since it is a Metroidvania, but more than that, it just feels chill and pleasant, choosing to focus on locomotion and exploration rather than direct combat. You unlock various animal forms which are used to access new areas as you explore this creepy and weird planet. Little bit of a shorter experience, but is well paced and makes use of that time very well, taking the #1 spot. To see more of the big picture, check out these awesome videos and I will see you after the jump.